You know, people have very good intentions, but until you have walked that journey, or at least have experienced some sort of loss in your life, you just don't really know. I know when my father passed away, I can remember, and I didn't remember this until after I had widowed, the things that I had said to my mother, and had meant, I didn't mean them to be ugly, but I could see how she could take it that way. And those things would be, why can't you move on after a couple of months? Why are you still acting this way? Or, you know, go back to your old self, you know. Well, for me, it was different because no one knew the old self. So people were very, very patient with me. And of course, because I was a young widow, the church didn't quite understand what their role needed to be to help me as a young widow and single mother. And so it was, I didn't have a lot of that like my mother had to deal with from her own daughter.
Some people have treated me differently. I would say I've lost people that we did things as a couple together, no longer invite you to the things that they're doing. Men, especially in the very beginning, would just walk past me at church. And I think that was because I now know they didn't know what to say. And yeah, there are times that I feel like I'm treated differently.
Becoming a widow for me was different for me because I was younger than most people that became widows. Like when we think of widow, we think of people in their 80s or 70s that had a long-term relationship with their spouses. For me, I was in my 20s. So my friends were, how could I say it where you could explain it? My friends were very different to me. They were like expecting me to go off and cry. They didn't know what to say, what to do, because for them, it was different too, because like I said, we were all in our 20s. So some people were rude and some people were really nice, but it was the older people who was nice, but my peers were very rude. It was like they wanted to taunt me, they wanted to tease me about it, and I didn't appreciate it. So I lost a lot of friends actually during that time.
There was an incident where someone did insert foot in mouth at the viewing of my husband. She said to me, "You can get remarried again." And that was not what I needed to hear at that time.
People say things, and even though they are so well-intended and their intentions are so honorable, they want to help you, they want to just express their sorrow to you, but often they don't think before they say things. And I know that I have been guilty of that before I lost my husband. I'm sure that I was insensitive to other people and not even really thinking before I said things. But there were a few times when people would say something like, you know, Jim and I did not have children, and they would say, well, at least you didn't have children, that must make it easier. Not really. Or they would say things like, well, I had this one woman come up to me and say, well, at least you've only lost one husband, I've lost two. Okay, this is not a competition. And then in a case, because again it was 9/11 and there were, my husband's remains were never found, and so I would have people just come up to me and ask me if they had found my husband's remains yet, and that's really not something that you want to talk about, but yet people, they want to know, and I guess in their minds they're thinking that you want to talk about it, but not everybody's ready for that. So I guess I would just have to say some people just need to think about what that other person is going through and how that might be interpreted on the other end.
He's better off. I mean, obviously he was disabled and had a wheelchair. And yes, he was better off. I knew he was better off. I knew he was in heaven. But I wasn't. And what I would think, well, it's good for him, but bad for me. And so, yes, he could walk and dance and do those things, but I think that was hard to hear, that he was better off. One person did say to me, well, at least I didn't have the care of him anymore.
It was a comfort in some way to know that Ray was in heaven. I believe that. He was a Christian. But yet I missed him. And so it was bittersweet. Yes, he is in heaven, and I'm glad he is, but those behind. And for me, it was I needed time to allow the grief and the tears and to experience that. And so I would say some of the comments about, you know, he's better off, he's out of his pain, which was true. He was out of his pain. He's walking, he's in heaven, is a great comfort, but at the same time, for me, I just missed him so much that it was a help, but yet it wasn't a help at the same time.
People really don't understand what they're saying to widows. That's a lifestyle that nobody has answers for per se but God. Because it's just a different lifestyle, unlike divorce, you know, or separation, unlike any of that. And they kind of group us, they say, well, you're single. They put us in a single category. But it's really not a single category because God in His sovereign chose to call our partners home. We didn't choose it in our lives, you know, our marriages. So it's a whole different category that you're in.